Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Reflecting, debriefing, and taking part in operational learning is a vehicle to identify new or emerging risks, monitoring trends, recommending remedial actions, and promoting the best practice, as well as achieving continuous improvement in service delivery and the safety of firefighters and frontline operators worldwide. Today's debrief comes through us from Warwickshire Fire Rescue Service, and this is a report into the Atherstone-on-stour fire on the 2nd of November 2007. This one was brought to you by William Wood Watches. William Wood Watches, as I'm sure you're already aware, are the makers of those incredibly authentic watches with a piece of firefighting history in every single one. Be sure to join them on their journey. Head over to williamwoodwatches.com, check them out on Instagram, check them out on YouTube. You can check all of their watches right there, from the Jubilee to the Triumph to the Valium to the Bronze to the Chivalrous, and they run competitions supporting firefighters charities all over the world, including the Firefighters charity in the UK. On the 2nd of November 2007, 4 firefighters entered a building to undertake their duties and never returned. The families of John Averis, Ian Reed, Ashley Stevens, and Darren Yates Badley lost partners, fathers, and sons. This debrief is shared in order to learn those lessons in the hope that this will never happen again. This fire took place at Wellmore Atherstone Limited, Hangar 1, Atherstone-on-stour near Stratford-upon-Avon in Warwickshire. The warehouse itself was a food processing plant operated by Wellmore Atherstone Limited, a supplier of retailers and wholesale sectors. During the afternoon of the 2nd of November 2007, a stock control check was carried out to identify items for recycling and disposal. At around 1700 hours, the packaging lines are completed except for one which is overrunning. Workers on this line continue to work to finish the packaging of the vegetables. At 1720, the automatic fire detection system sounds the alarm. At 1724, the engineering manager, having already left the site, is contacted and informed that the fire alarm has activated. He returns to the building to investigate. After attempting to silence the alarm, he goes to the first floor storage area where the alarm panel indicated the detector had gone off. He sees a pallet stacked with cardboard boxes on fire within a bay at the far end of the storeroom. He attempts to put it out with the fire using a foam extinguisher. This extinguisher runs out, so he locates a carbon dioxide extinguisher and attempts to put out the small pieces of paper-like material that had drifted away from the pallet. He believed that he had successfully smothered the fire and leaves the building to get help from other staff. He returns with 5 other people. They find the pallet has reignited, with the flames now reaching the ceiling. They realise that it's safe to leave the building and call 999. At 17:35, an employee calls the Fire and Rescue Service using the mobile telephone. Warwickshire sent 2 fire appliances from Stratford-upon-Avon. The first appliance was a hold time and arrives at the incident. At this point, there are no signs of fire from the outside of the building. At 17:54, the second fire appliance, which is a retained vehicle, arrives on the incident. The officer in charge, IC1, is met by the engineering manager. They recognise each other from the incident in April 2007. They discuss the situation, and IC1 asks what is on fire, its location, and the surrounding hazards. They enter the building via the visitor's entrance and go to the first floor reception area. From there, they enter the corridor, and IC1 sees smoke seeping from the gaps in the double doors leading to the lift lobby at the far end of the corridor. The description from the engineer manager is taken to mean that the fire is just beyond the double doors at the end of the corridor. No direct question is asked about the evacuation, with the general understanding being that the building is evacuated. The breathing apparatus entry control point is established outside the visitor's entrance. Stage 1 procedures are put in place. IC1 exits the building to brief the crews. There is no visible smoke in the corridor. The first 2-person BA team enters the building with a hose reel, with a brief to locate and extinguish the fire. They get to the first floor and move along the corridor to the double doors, giving access to the lift lobby. There is still no smoke build up in the corridor, and the lights are still on. They reach the double doors and see wispy smoke coming from around the edges of the door. 1804. Informative message from IC1. Building consisting of 2 floors, 100 by 100 metres, use undetermined, fire on the first floor, hose reel jets and 2 breathing apparatus are in use. Offensive. BA1 enter the area they believe to be the fire compartment. They encounter thick black smoke down to floor level, with limited visibility, but neither firefighter expresses concern over the heat. Unable to locate the fire and with the hose reel pulling tight, BA1 withdraw back into the corridor and radio for more hose reel. This is extended outside and they go back into the lift lobby, wedging the inward opening doors open with a pallet and 2 boxes. Still unable to locate the fire, they request a thermal imaging camera via radio. IC1, who has been monitoring their progress from a safe position further up the corridor, checks the thermal imaging camera and takes it down the corridor to them. The thermal imaging screen, when used in the compartment, shows a black screen with no contrast or image. IC1 is informed by the engineering manager of the water supplies available on site, a borehole at the front and a 16,000 litre tanker on the wooded side of the building. Having still not located the fire, IC1 tasks 2 firefighters to check the opposite side of the building for signs of fire and assess water supplies. BA1 make the decision to withdraw as they are low on air. With the double doors propped open, smoke is starting to build up in the corridor. At approximately 18:15, the second 2-person BA team entering the building to relieve BA1. The teams meet in the corridor and exchange information. The smoke at this point is 2 meters off the ground and white in colour. BA2 take the thermal imaging camera and check it is working. As they move into the lift lobby, the screen displays shows a black screen with no contrast or image. The BA Team 2 advanced on their knees, gas cooling at regular intervals. On the right hand side search, they come to a point which is noticeably hotter and they cannot hear or feel water coming down. BA2 put a figure of 8 pulse spray into the front, as they are concerned that the short and long gas cooling sprays are not effective. They are hit by a wave of heat which they believe to be steam from something very hot. Breathing apparatus Team 2 withdraw from the building and are agitated by this state. By this time, smoke is down to ankle level in what they perceive to be the fire compartment, but it is actually the lift lobby. Outside, the engineering manager assists firefighters to draw a plan of the route to the fire on the back of the BA board. The fire is further into the compartment than they were originally informed, now understood to be 18 to 22 metres through the double doors and off to the left. At 18:28, an assistance message from IC1 is sent. Command Level 1, make pumps 3 for BA, as we are having difficulty locating the seat of fire due to the size of the premises. At 18:30, a BA tender is mobilised in addition to appliances requested. At 18:34, night shift crew, in a 4x4 with IC2, arrives from Stratford-upon-Avon Fire Station to relieve the whole time day shift. One of them describes seeing smoke slowly drifting upwards from somewhere in the centre of the building, from under the eaves of the building. With their entry control point clear of smoke at this point, they set up a covering jet and the BA servicing area. IC1 requests that a third BA crew, BA3, to continue to search for the fire. The first crew, BA1, now rested and with improved information agreed to go back in. They re-enter the building following the same route and IC1 follows them to a safe point in the corridor, having to bend down to see under the smoke. Their brief is to progress into the lift lobby area, believed to be the fire compartment, leave the reference wall, and to progress beyond 2 partitions located ahead and slightly left, to find the fire location and extinguish it. BA Team 3, on their hands and knees, experience nil visibility and an increase in temperature from their first BA wear. They reach the first partition approximately 5 meters inside the lift lobby, and as expected, they start to move forward to the end of the partition, but team leaders get caught by some cables hanging down from the ceiling. Plastic trunking is melted, releasing the cables. The number 2 in the team releases him. BA Team 3 note that the temperature increases significantly as they move around at the end of the partition. They look to go ahead and slightly off to the left for the second partition and encounter an unexpected triangular structure impeding their progress. They make radio contact to seek clarification, but this structure cannot be verified. At 18:37, a third appliance, which is a retained appliance, arrives and the crew notice white-grey smoke coming out from the eaves of the building. At 18:38, assistance message from IC1, move to command level 2. This is make pumps 5 plus additional command support pump. The reconnaissance for water supplies and signs of fire is completed. The firefighters inform IC1 they have not seen any external signs of fire spread. Some water flowing from pipes within the south side of the building and smoke from ventilation ducts adjacent to the appliances on the roadside. They also report unsuitable firefighting water supplies on site, as the connections themselves are not compatible. Assistance message from IC1, request the attendance of the water bowser. Smoke is getting noticeably thicker on the outside of the building around the BA entry control point. IC1 and the relief IC2 go to the first floor to review the situation. Smoke has now entered the first floor reception area. BA Team 3, still unable to identify a triangular structure, are concerned that they have gone off route and decide to withdraw from the building. Conditions are described as extremely hot. Command Support, 2 firefighters and an appliance, is moved from round the side of the building near to the visitors entrance to the hard standing in front of the building. The smoke is hanging in the air now and falling down to the ground as it is not hot enough to dissipate upwards. IC1 considers ventilation from the roof after discussing building construction with the engineer manager and concludes that it is not feasible without specialised equipment. BA Team 3 exit the building and initiate further discussions for venting of the fire. They then draw a new plan using the command support pack in consultation with the engineering manager. At 18:48, IC2 takes over command of the incident from IC1, approximately 2 minutes before next assistance message was sent. At 18:49, the fourth appliance arrives on scene. There is no heavy smoke and no flame is visible from the outside. The crew observes no blackened windows and the smoke is misty, like steam. At 18:50, assistance message from IC2, move to command level 3. At 18:52, fire cover arrives as a station manager. He notices grey smoke coming from the eaves of the building. At 18:53, a 4-person BA team, designated as Red 1, enter the building with a brief from IC2, using the new plan and drawing to carry out a right-hand search of the fire compartment, locate and extinguish the fire, and report back on conditions on the inside. They are tasked, if possible, to find an alternative entry point and look for ventilation options. They take with them an extended hose reel. Light smoke is coming from the eaves of the building and the first floor lights are still on. The rooms seen through the first floor windows are clear of smoke. A team, without BA, manage a hose reel from Red 1 in the first floor reception area at the top of the stairs. The first floor landing is clear, although there is smoke in the reception area and the corridor. At 18:55, the 5th and 6th appliances arrive on scene. The crews observe smoke coming from the eaves of the building, but no flames and the lights are still on the first floor windows. The fire cover officer IC3 takes command of the incident from IC2, and as part of the handover, a review of the situation is undertaken. Smoke is at head height in the first floor reception area. IC2 observes no difference from before. It is normal black smoke. IC3 sees smoke, but no fire or sound of fire is heard. Ventilation is discussed once again. There is a mechanical ventilation system in the building, but a reluctance to use it because of uncertainty as to where it will spread the fire. Smoke is dropping around the BA entry control point now. 2 firefighters are sent around the outside of the building looking for another point of entry. On the south side of the building, at the eaves, they notice a section of the steelwork is glowing red. IC2 is informed of the situation on their return and to the BA entry control point. A team is tasked to secure water supplies on the wooded side of the building and to set up firefighting jets. Breathing apparatus entry control point is relieved by the night watch and stage 2 procedures are implemented. In 1907, another 4-person BA team, designated as Red 2, enter the building with a brief from IC2, now acting as a sector commander, to carry out a left-hand search of the fire compartment to locate the fire, extinguish it, and to look for ventilation options. They take with them an extended hose reel. A 2-person BA team relieve the team managing the hose at the first floor reception area. They find the stairwell and reception area clear of smoke, with hazy smoke in the corridor leading to the lift lobby. A crew is sent to the south side of the building to reassess the water supply from the tanker. They observe the wall glowing red past the second exit door on that side. This information is passed to IC3 approximately 3 minutes later. IC1 enters the ground floor with the engineering manager. The ground floor was absolutely clear of smoke. They open a fire exit to the roadside, which later becomes the second entry control point. BA Team Red 2 go through the double doors and enter the lift lobby. The smoke is down to floor level with poor visibility and the heat is described by the team as being intense. A punch on the nose, like from an oven. The intensity of the heat is growing rapidly. They notice the hose reel and Red 1 going to the right and the team leader is aware of Red 1 in front of him and can hear them speaking. Gas cooling is having little or no effect. Stratford-upon-Avon's day watch with IC1 leave the incident ground at this time. In 1911, the 7th appliance arrives from Leamington. The crew see smoke coming from the roof with no visible flames. BA entry control point loses radio contact with Red 1 and immediately informs IC2.
Today's episode is supported by our good friends over at Duty Crew Coffee. Now, as you're probably aware, coffee is the most popular drink worldwide, with over 2.25 billion cups of coffee consumed every single day, and over 70 million of those in the UK alone. Most of this is consumed in our crew rooms, our watch offices, and by our emergency services frontline staff. So when you're getting together around the mess table, don't be drinking a nasty-ass cheap coffee. Nobody likes that guy that brings the cheap stuff. Life is too short to be drinking crap coffee. So if you head on over to dutycrew.co.uk or click the link in the podcast below, you'll be able to jump on over and see the Duty Crew coffee products. They come in 227 gram oversized high quality recyclable stand-up pouches, and they are individually wrapped 10 gram coffee bags. They're quick, mess-free, convenient. They have a one-way degassing valve, which is an absolute must for storage of freshly roasted coffee. You can get the 20-pack response bag. They've got the HQ, they've got the No Duff, they've got the Unity, the Decaf, and of course, all of their products are Rainforest Alliance certified, Fair Trade Foundation, and most importantly, they taste freaking epic. I started drinking Duty Crew about 2 months ago, and then when I fell in love with it, I got in contact with them and they came on board with the podcast. So jump on over to Duty Crew Coffee if you want some of the good stuff. Now back to the podcast.
Two members of Red 2 hear a loud crash and bang from within the fire compartment. BA Echo hears an unreadable message over the radio. IC2 takes the BA engine control point officer's radio and calls up Red 1. He hears words, emergency, emergency. Red 2 are concerned about the worsening conditions and decide to withdraw. They retreat a short distance. From just inside the double doors, the Red 2 team leader hears Red 1 roughly 9 meters away and to his right. He hears large objects falling down. At 19:15, Red 2 hears BA emergency over the radio. Red 2 takes a gauge check and tries to contact the engine control officer on the radio. They hear Red 1 starting to move from right to left, putting them directly in front of the double doors. Red 2 have difficulty contacting the engine control officer. They withdraw into the corridor slightly, and after a delay, they establish contact with the engine control point and are instructed to find Red 1. Red 2 team leader number 1 and his number 2 re-enter the lift lobby and search for Red 1, whilst their 3 and 4 manage the hose reel at the double doors. Red 2 numbers 1 and 2 can hear Red 1 in the lift lobby. They are shouting, sounding more agitated, and moving further to the left. They hear rhythmic bangs, noises like a BA cylinder being hit on the floor or pallets falling over. Red 2 numbers 1 and 2 follow to their left-hand wall in the direction of the noises from Red 1. The temperature is rising. Smoke levels are increasing in the corridor. They hear noises from something wooden being kicked. They shout to alert Red 1 of their presence. Red 2 number 1 senses that someone is close by and moves out from the wall. He is nearly 2 meters off the wall with his back to it. They continue to gas call. A firefighter from Red 1 appears out of the smoke in front of them. He does not speak and is staggering. Red 2 number 1 grabs hold of him and pushes him towards the wall, and the firefighter follows the wall, bursting past Red 2 number 2 towards the double doors. Visibility is very poor. Red 2 numbers 1 and 2 remain in the lift lobby area, expecting the other 3 members of Red 1 to appear. The firefighter from Red 1 locates the double doors and exits the lift lobby to the corridor. He bursts through the doors at speed, passing Red 2 numbers 3 and 4, who are unable to seize hold of him, and disappears into the smoke with his low pressure warning whistle and BA set going off. Visibility in the corridor has deteriorated, and Red 2 numbers 3 and 4 believe him to have progressed back out. Red 2 numbers 1 and 2, still on the left-hand wall within the lift lobby, continue to search for the remaining 3 members of Red 1 and reach the full extent of the hose reel. The shouting and banging that could previously be heard has stopped, and they hear automatic distress signal units for the first time. They take a few steps beyond the end of the fully extended hose reel. The heat becomes unbearable, visibility is nil, and they are becoming exhausted. Therefore, they decide to withdraw from the lift lobby but leave their hose reel in place, thinking that it may act as a guide to safety for others. At 19:15, a BA emergency message was sent to fire control. A 3-person BA team, Emergency Team 1, known as ET1, who has been standing by under Stage 2 procedures, enters the building with a brief to locate and rescue the missing team. They take with them a line of 45mm hose. They make their way through the first floor reception, which was relatively smoke-free, but the smoke gets heavier as they make their way down the corridor. On their way down the corridor, they meet a Red 2 and exchange information. ET1 reach the end of the corridor. The 45mm hose will only take them as far as the double doors to the lift lobby. Following the advice from Red 2, they follow the hose reel to the left and into the lift lobby, where visibility is very poor and temperatures are extremely hot. Assistance message from IC3. Request attendance of an ambulance service. In response to the BA emergency message, all crews, including those previously allocated to the other tasks on the incident ground, gather at the entry point with BA sets. This includes the 6th appliance in attendance, which should have been dedicated to enhance the command support function. A 4-person BA team, ET2, enters the building with a brief to locate and rescue the missing team. They take with them a line of 45mm delivery hose and a thermal imaging camera. They follow the same route as ET1 and reach the extent of their 45mm hose at the double doors to the left of the lobby. They pause there and experience a temperature so great it forces them onto their knees. IC3 updates its previous message to control, establishing that there are potentially 4 casualties. In 1926, second fire cover officer arrives as a station manager. There are no visible flames from the building as the fire has not broken out, but he sees a plume of white and grey smoke. ET2 hears the sound of an ADSU to their left. The crew separates. 2 stay on the branch and 2 head towards the sound of the ADSU. They briefly go in through a double doors to the lift lobby before realising the ADSU is actually coming from a different area. They backtrack and go down a side corridor to their left. A firefighter from Red 1 is located 2 to 3 metres down the side of the corridor. He is still wearing his BA set and his helmet is dislodged but is still on. There are no audible indications of breathing. An ET2 crew member attempts to search for further members of Red 1 using the thermal imaging camera, but the screen displays no contrast or image in the now heavily smoke-logged corridor. After quickly searching around and finding no casualties, ET2 begin to make their way out of the building with the casualty. ET1 also hears the ADSUs in the lift lobby. They make a noise banging on the wall and get to the end of the hose reel left by Red 2 on the left-hand wall, but the increasing heat forces the withdrawal of them to the lift lobby. Crews are waiting for ET2 on the stairs and they carry the casualty from Red 1 from the building. Immediate attempts are made to resuscitate the casualty, but in the vicinity at the entry control point, initially done by firefighters. In 1931, an ambulance arrives and a paramedic assists with the resuscitation attempt. In 1932, Group Manager 8 arrives and after a short time is asked by IC3 to supervise the second B-entry control point. 2 crews arrive with an accompanying fire cover officer and after a discussion with IC3, begin to establish a second entry control point, EP2, at the fire escape previously identified on the road side of the building. In 1938, a 3-person emergency BA team, ET3, enters the building through the original entry point, EP1, with a brief to search the first floor office area to cover the front of the building to find the remaining 3 members of Red 1. They have a thermal imaging camera and no firefighter media, as they are separated from the fire compartment. They search some of the offices on the left-hand side of the main corridor and note that there is not much smoke in the offices. After searching the offices, ET3 heads towards the lift lobby area upon the corridor and picking up a hose reel branch on the way. They encounter thick smoke and extreme heat on the entering the lift lobby. They also hear the ADSUs and go left in their direction. In 1950, a 4-person BA team, Emergency Team 4, is briefed with further new plans provided by the engineering manager to lay a guideline to assist the rescue operation. During the briefing, they realise these plans are inaccurate and have to be annotated at the scene by the engineering manager. ET4 enter without firefighting media with a brief to collect a hose reel en route. In the first floor corridor, they locate a hose reel, test it, and find it to be ineffective. They continue to lay the guideline down the corridor towards the lift lobby. In 1952, Duty Crew Manager B arrives and takes over the incident command as IC4. He is accompanied by a BBC reporter and camera operator who have been working with him during the day. In 1957, the Chief Fire Officer arrives. After speaking with IC3 and IC4, it is agreed he would deal with strategic and organisational issues whilst being kept informed of the operational aspect of the incident. In 1957, Water Bowser crews request an increase in the water pressure in the area. 13 minutes later, IC4 checks on the progress and is informed that the request has been delayed. No postcode could be supplied and the request goes through the wrong area. IC4 appoints a water section with station manager who has just arrived on scene. The plan is to utilise more appliances and crews, secure the borehole supply on site, which is capable of producing at least 35,000 litres a day to secure a supply from the river store using the high volume pump. In 1958, a crew go around the south side of the building looking for alternative entry points and signs of their missing colleagues. They enter the building without BA through a staff entrance and go up to the first floor. They initially encounter light white smoke as they search offices. At 20:00 hours, assistance message from IC4, move to command level 4, makes pumps 12 plus further supporting officers. The crew searching off the offices in the southeast corner of the building exit by the staff entrance and re-enter through a fire exit further along the south side. They go up the stairs to the first floor, not encountering any significant smoke or heat until they open a set of double doors. When doing so, they encounter thick smoke, heat, and hear ADSUs. Falling to their knees, they shout to try and see through the smoke, and they are torches. At 20:00 hours, the crew searching offices in the southeast corner of the building exit by the staff entrance and re-enter through a fire exit further along the south side. They go up the stairs to the first floor, not encountering any significant smoke or heat until they open a set of double doors, when they encounter thick smoke, heat, and hear the ADSUs. Falling to their knees, they shout and try to see through the smoke with their torches, but have to retreat back down the stairs due to the deteriorating conditions. At 20:01, assistance message from IC4, make pump 16. At 20:02, BA main control is set up and the clocks synchronized and communications established with the BA entry control points. At 20:02, the firefighter casualty from Red 1 rescued by ET2 is taken to hospital, where he is formally pronounced dead. At 20:02, the group manager, operating as entry control point 2 and liaising with the rest of the teams, is using the latest available plans to coordinate the use of guidelines. An emergency team 5, ET5, enters the building with a hose reel to lay a guideline on the left-hand wall. The engineering manager and his 4x4 vehicle are commandeered by a firefighter and assist to replenish BA cylinder stocks. The engineering manager takes empty BA cylinders to Stratford-upon-Avon Fire Station for charging and leaves the site for approximately 1 hour.
A quick reminder for all of our listeners of our monthly giveaway. Now, as part of our partnership with Hikes, Rosenbauer and Tallyman, we give away that little bit extra to our podcast listeners every single month. You can get 2 personalized BA tallies. These are hardware and they've got your own name on them, they've got your own service number on them, and they have the podcast logo on the back. And then for the juicy stuff, Hikes give away a pair of their incredible footwear. And some of the stuff is pretty expensive stuff, to be honest with you. We try and switch in and change it every month. We are guided by the gods of Hikes to make sure we are giving you exactly what you need for that time of year. So it might be boots, it might be trainers, and then once every quarter our good friends over at Rosenbauer are giving away their Boros B5 firefighting boots as well. So to be in with a chance to win, jump over to our social media platforms or YouTube, where you need to tag a member of the emergency services in the post, be following our page, and you will be in with a chance to win at the end of every single month. Back to the show.
Emergency Team 4 comes to the end of their guideline and at the double doors leading to the lift lobby, where the floor is hot and there is a threshold of heat. They hear a loud bang in front of them and to their right. They believe the ceilings are starting to collapse within the lift lobby area. The ceiling in the corridor is also in a state of collapse. At 2010, water is being supplied from a large dam located outside entry control point 1, which appliances are refilling via water shuttle from hydrants located in the area. The level in the dam is low, and Emergency Team 4 is ordered to withdraw. They hear another BA team, Emergency Team 5, entering the building with another entrance. They are using their own water supply from their appliance tanks. Crews are having difficulty finding a hydrant and pressure and flow that allows them to get the water back before the dam supply is used. The use of 45mm jets has increased demand for water on site. Emergency Team 5 enters the corridor leading to the lift lobby and hears the sound of ADSUs coming from the lift lobby area. As they are laying their guideline on the left-hand wall, they turn to their right in the direction of the ADSU, and the crew of Emergency Team 5 experience an extremely hot temperature when removing gloves to tie off the guideline. They encounter another guideline which becomes entangled with theirs. They are low on air supply and pick up the guideline lane by Emergency Team 4 exited the building via entry control point 1. At 2012, Warwickshire's police arrive. 2 members of Emergency Team 5 re-enter entry control point 1 to retrieve the hose reel. They get to the corridor leading to the lift lobby and encountering thick, black smoke. The temperature there has increased since the time they have been outside. 2 members of Emergency Team 5 re-enter via entry control point 1 to retrieve the hose reel. They get to the corridor leading to the lift lobby and encounter thick, black smoke and temperature that has increased in the time that they have been outside. At 2013, Emergency Team 5 is briefed by Group Manager A, operating at entry control point 2, and there is further discussion over the accuracy of the plans supplied and annotated by the engineering manager. At 2032, more crews arrive and are tasked with marshalling appliances in the holding area. A further water carrier also arrives on site. At 2035, a HP hydraulic platform also arrives. At 2036, a 4-person BA team, now Emergency Team 6, is briefed to enter entry control point 2 to the first floor and follow the sounds of the ADSUs to locate the missing firefighters. They split into 2 teams, with 2 on the hose reel branch and 2 hose managing behind them. They are by the double doors to the lift lobby and hear the ADSU operating to their left. They look under the smoke layer and see 2 torch lights in the distance. 2 of the crew head off down the left-hand wall towards the torch lights and 2 stay behind with the hose reel. At 2037, the Deputy Chief Fire Officer also arrives at the incident. At 2038, a 4-person BA team, Engine Control Team 7, is briefed to search and rescue Red 1 and enter via entry control point 1 to the first floor using the guideline. They have a thermal imaging camera with them and pick up the hose reel in the corridor. The BA team reach the double doors to the left of the lobby area. The hose reel and the guideline are tangled and hamper their progress. They have to withdraw as their air supply is low. At 20:51, 2 members from Emergency Team 6, while crawling on their hands and knees due to the heat, find 2 firefighters from Red 1. They are both on their backs, but their torches are still on. Their BA gauges both read 0. Their face mask seals are not broken, and their helmets are on. There is no firefighting equipment or debris near them. Emergency Team 6 report back via radio to Entry Control Point 2 that 2 casualties have been located. A 4-person BA team, Emergency Team 8, is about to enter the building from Entry Control Point 1 when they hear the radio message. Having already handed in their tallies at Entry Control Point 1, they divert and enter instead through Entry Control Point 2 to assist Emergency Team 6. A 3rd firefighter from Emergency Team 6 leaves the fully extended hose reel to help his colleagues with the casualties. They try to move them, but are unable to do so. Emergency Team 6, experiencing tense heat and with their air supply running low, have to withdraw from the warehouse without the casualties. On the way out of the lift lobby, they hear a loud crash and bang. The building is starting to collapse. On the way out, they meet Emergency Team 8 and tell them the casualties are at the end of the hose reel and the building is failing. At 20:54, another water carrier arrives. Emergency Team 8 go to the end of the hose reel in the lift lobby in conditions of 0 visibility. They hear ADSUs and drop to the floor to search. They sense things are falling all around them, and after an almighty bang and crash, they are forced to withdraw. Firefighters waiting for casualties in the staircase above Entry Control Point 2 hear a loud crash, followed by a large plume of black smoke entering the staircase. The smoke outside is thicker and causing problems for some firefighters. The paint is blistering on the cladding and below the roof, which is glowing red. At 2100, the fire alarm system has been repeatedly reactivating throughout the incident. Following repeated attempts to silence the alarm at the staff entrance, the engineering manager disconnects the battery. He notes that flames are now visible, having breached the south side of the building. A 4-person BA team, Emergency Team 9, accompanied by a 2-person BA team, Emergency Team 10, consisting of 2 former members of Emergency Team 6, are briefed to enter Entry Control Point 2 for a further attempt to recover the casualties. Emergency Team 10, with previous knowledge of the locations, are to guide Emergency Team 9 through the lift lobby doors and place them on the left-hand reference wall, then withdraw. Emergency Team 9 are briefed to recover the casualties. At 21:05, the 2 teams go to the top of the staircase but are faced with conditions that are impossible to work safely in. There is thick black smoke and extreme heat causing ceiling tiles to fall. Thick black tar is running down the walls and they withdraw. At 21:10, flames break through the roof. At 21:13, the Deputy Chief Fire Officer takes over as Incident Commander. 21:18, a high volume pump-in arrives at the incident. At 21:22, informative message from the Deputy Chief Fire Officer, Incident Commander 5. Following dynamic risk assessment, based on information from BA crews, internal floors and ceilings are in danger of collapse. All BA crews are withdrawn. That brings us to the end of the timeline for this incident. We're now going to cover some urban search and rescue aspects, some incident synopsis, and some of the outcomes that you may find useful. When it becomes clear that the warehouse was structurally unsound after 21:22, the National Urban Search and Rescue capability became the most suitable way of recovering the 3 missing firefighters. Some background on the location and development of it. The fire took place at Wilmot Atherstone Limited Hangar 1, Atherstone-on-stour, near Stratford-upon-Avon, Warwickshire. The warehouse is in a small rural village, 4 miles south of Stratford-upon-Avon. The nearest fire station is Stratford-upon-Avon, which has 1 whole-time and 1 retained duty system appliance. Apart from Stratford-upon-Avon, the majority of fire stations in the south of the county are 1 appliance retained stations, with the next nearest whole-time station being Leamington Spa, approximately 30 minutes away. As mentioned before, the warehouse was a food processing plant operated by Wilmot Atherstone Limited. The original warehouse was based upon a World War II hangar sited on an old airfield. The hangar had been extensively developed and extended in 2 directions. The original World War II aircraft hangar was extended in 1999. This extension doubled the size of the building. Between 2005 and 2007, Bomfords Limited, the owner of the warehouse at this time, refurbished the existing building. They extended the premises further with the addition of a large steel frame building which again doubled its size to approximately 150 by 69 by 10 metres. In June 2007, towards the end of the construction process, Bombers Limited went into insolvency and administrators became responsible for the business. During this period, construction was ceased, with much of the remaining unfinished work around the first floor storage area. All of the new extension was occupied and in use, including the first floor storage area. In August 2007, Wheelmore Atherstone Limited purchased the building and associated business. They continued to use all areas of the new extension, with restrictions on access to the use of the storage area, whilst assessing what work needed to be done to complete the building. The basic structure was a steel truss portable frame, with the first floor sitting amongst the frame trusses. The size of the planned use of the first floor kept changing, which led to more strength being added to the steel and to take account for the possible options. This was not a lightweight frame. The safety margin added is thought to have meant the building was noticeably stronger than it needed to be. The first floor steelwork did not reach the wall of the older phases of the development, creating a void between the old and the new sections. The doors at the back of the storage area step down onto the ceiling of the ground floor. This may explain why the first floor has been referred to as a mezzanine, which it is not. The warehouse itself had 2 known fire incidents prior to the 2nd of November 2007. On the 3rd of September 2006, 2 fire appliances from Stratford-upon-Avon attended a report of a strong smell of smoke. This involved a broken machine belt in plant outside the back of the building. On the 20th of April 2007, 2 fire appliances from the same station attended a fire involving a compressor. The whole time appliance was crewed by the same watch that attended on the 2nd of November 2007. The fire was located in the air hanging unit off the lift lobby on the right side of the building and was extinguished by breathing apparatus crews using extended hose reels. Smoke had been into the other rooms as a number of self-closers on the doors were disconnected. On return to the station, the incident commander was asked by a fire safety officer to attend the premises, which they did that morning. The fire safety officer was escorted on site by the maintenance manager, the same person who was later the engineering manager at the fire in Wellmore on the 2nd of November, and the project manager for the new extension. He was taken to the area where the fire had occurred, found no doors propped open and the self-closers properly connected. It was discussed that the fire doors had been nailed open to ventilate and cure newly laid flooring in the area. The fire safety officer also found a 4 metre by 3 metre gap leading to the area he referred to as the chill store. The gap exposed a mineral wool sandwich panels. It was discussed that the gap had been made to allow the installation of fridge units, and that a fire door was to be installed in the gap. Advice was also given about the positioning of smoke detectors, the importance of maintaining compartmentation and keeping doors closed, maintenance of fire precautions throughout the construction phase, and the need to carry out a fire risk assessment. Neither the September 2006 incident, the April 2007 incident, nor the subsequent fire safety officer visit identified the need for an operational premises risk assessment to be carried out under Section 7.2d of the Fire and Rescue Service Act. After discussions between the chief fire officers of both services in attendance, it was agreed that urban search and rescue sector would be established, and this formal arrangement took effect on the Sunday the 4th of November at 1100 hours. Initial urban search and rescue operations started on Saturday the 3rd of November at approximately 1700. The incident scene was divided into 3 distinct areas to assist the USAR operators. Area 1, at the end of the building, was an area that was severely damaged by fire and heat. This was subject to internal structural collapse and partial external collapse. Area 2, an area in the middle of the building, constructed predominantly of heavy-duty steelwork, had suffered total collapse. And Area 3, an area at the far end of the building, was largely intact, but had been subject to smoke damage. On Sunday the 4th of November, timber walkways were created across the first floor to the last known whereabouts of the missing firefighters. The condition of the structure was monitored by structural engineers, whilst USAR search operations, police, fire and rescue, and health and safety executive investigations continued. USAR teams and advisors from around the country attended the incident. Hereford and Worcester, West Midlands, Avon, Hampshire, Devon, Leicestershire, Buckinghamshire, Merseyside, and London undertook the initial work. A further 3 Fire and Rescue Service USAR teams from Norfolk, Essex, and West Yorkshire were mobilised but not required as the firefighters were found prior to the team's arrival on scene. The police senior investigation officer confirmed the incident ground was to be treated as a crime scene. There was agreement with the police and the fire incident commander that the USAR sector commander would oversee rescue operations, with the police retaining primary control for the crime scene. Regular meetings were held with the fire incident commander, fire investigation officer, health and safety executive officer, scenes of crimes officer, and the police on-site commander. Away from the scene, the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor was briefed, who in turn briefed the advised government ministers. Urban Search and Rescue established inner and outer cordons, and a strategic holding area at the Moreton in Marsh was created for USAR and logistical support. The 3 missing firefighters were located on the 6th of November 2007 and recovered from the building. USAR resources were returned to their own fire and rescue services on the 7th of November 2007. However, the USAR sector commander continued providing further assistance to the police. Following the deaths of the 4 firefighters, a number of organisations undertook investigations, including Warwickshire Police. The police investigation led to a court case and the acquittal of 3 incident commanders who had been charged with gross negligence manslaughter. These were IC1, IC2 and IC3. The incident also led to a health and safety executive prosecution and £30,000 fine for Warwickshire County Council, and the HSE improvement notice was served. After the incident, Warwickshire Police and the HSE launched a joint investigation. It was an enormous task and involved a building which was badly damaged, a fire with no clear cause, and a tragic sequence of events which were not all directly witnessed. The investigation not only looked at whether an illegal activity led to the fire, but also looked at the role the fire service and the crews at the incident scene played. The damage state to the building and the number of unanswered questions around the background and circumstances of the fire led to a thorough investigation. As this was a criminal investigation, the fire service were a fundamental part of that investigation. There was strict control over the information being passed and the role that the service could play in that investigation. This, at times, caused frustration within the service, especially with regard to the issues that the fire service felt could have improved the service to the wider fire and rescue sector. The investigation into the cause of the fire was carried out by a range of regional fire and rescue services led by Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service, with London's Fire Brigade's assistance. Independently, Warwickshire Fire and Rescue Service undertook an Adverse Event Investigation, AEI, after agreeing necessary protocols of the police and the HSE. To close this debrief, we're going to finish off with what actually happened to Red 1. What follows are the known relevant facts. Prior to Red 1 entering, they were given information about the suspected location of the fire, the location and distances to the fallen cables, partitions, the unknown triangular object, and the fact that conditions are very hot in the area around the triangular structure. Red 1 enter at 18:53 hours. Their brief is to carry out a right-hand search of the compartment and to tackle the fire. IC2 also gives them further objectives to find and second entry point, identify any options for ventilating the building, and feed this information back via the entry control point officer. Their time of whistle is recorded at 19:28 and the BA entry control board. Red 2 see Red 1's hose reel and go through a lift lobby entrance door off to the right, and the fire investigation team found the remains of their hose reel going right. The hose reel was found to be heading towards the gap in the wall, with one piece of hose reel fragment evidencing its return in forensics. Red 1's hose reel was also found in the forensics, and the amount of hose reel within the fire compartment could not be determined due to the sections of hose reel up to the gap inside the wall had all burnt away. Red 2 entered at 19:07, approximately 14 minutes after Red 1. On entering the compartment through the double doors at the end of the corridor, Red 2 number 1 hears Red 1 talking through the heat and smoke ahead of him and off to the right. Prior to breathing apparatus emergency being called, number 1 of Red 2 is by the doorway to the corridor and hears Red 1 approximately 9 meters in front and 45 degrees off to the right. Numbers 3 and 4 of Red 2 state they hear a crash and a bang just before the BA emergency. At the time, BA emergency Red 1 are at the same distance from Red 2, but start to move from right to left ahead of them. Whilst Red 2 are in the radio to BA entry control point officer, Red 1 moved further left so that they are now in front of Red 2. By the time Red 2 come into the compartment to search for them, Red 1 are to the left and ahead of them and moving further away. As Red 2 move down and left-hand wall towards the sounds of Red 1, they can hear rhythmic bangs and noises ahead of them. Red 2 also notice the heat increasing during this time. A short while later, members of Red 2 hear someone or something kicking something like a wood or the door. I thought they had gone into the room or something, and this had confused me even further. A member of Red 2, after sensing something close by, moves out from the left-hand wall, and with the back to the wall, a member of Red 1 appears out of the smoke from the direction of the partition wall. Whilst it is not definitely evidence how far along the left-hand wall the members of Red 2 were at that time, the number 2 of the crew suggests that there were 2 to 3 metres from the double door on the left-hand wall. This put them into the forensic grid found after the incident. The crew member from Red 1 is placed onto the left-hand wall. He runs past Red 2, numbers 3 and 4, at the double doors and then lose sight of him into the smoke. He is found again, approximately 6 minutes later, in the corridor, running adjacent to the lift lobby, 2 to 3 metres down the corridor. His face mask is on and also his helmet. His fire kit shows no sign of direct burning, and his BA set personal line is stowed in its pouch. 2 of the members from Red 1 are discovered by BA Emergency Team 6 further along the left-hand wall inside the lift lobby, approximately 80 minutes later. Their masks and helmets are on, and their BA gauges read 0. Emergency Team 6 is not able to recover the 2 members of Red 1 and make the decision to withdraw. All 3 members of Red 1 were later found. The fire investigation found items belonging to them in the area, including 3 knives and a mobile phone. The fire investigation report noted, the blade of one of the knives appears to have been in a fully open position. The blade of the second knife appeared to be in a partially open position, suggesting the firefighters may have been using the knives at the time. To close, we're going to finish off with some learning points. The Incident Command has the ultimate responsibility for the health and safety of crews at the scene of the incident. The role involves constantly taking in information from a range of sources, prioritising that information and making decisions based on it. These decisions are dependent on the quality, accuracy and availability of the information. The Atherstone-on-stour incident highlighted learning points around how information was gathered, processed and managed. In particularly, command support, briefing and debriefing with BA crews, handovers between incident commanders, passing on information by BA crews to the incident commanders and the accuracy of the information. Since the incident, the fire service has identified 4 general headings to prompt information gathering at incidents by crews and incident commanders, which the service is calling the 4 Cs: construction, contents, conditions, context or circumstances, e.g. casualties or time or cause. Command support. The resources allocated to command support function as the incident escalated were not sufficient to manage the complexity of the developing incident. The 6th appliance and attendants should have been allocated to perform the command support function, but this did not happen due to it being utilised as a general fireground resource. The learning point is that all incidents should have appropriately resourced command support for the early stages. With regard to briefing and debriefing of BA crews, there was a lack of consistency in approach between commanders and BA crews to facilitate an exchange of information and relevant information. This was particularly evident at entry control points, although there were ad hoc briefing and debriefings taking place. The learning point is that a standard methodology should be adopted to ensure a standardized approach. Handovers between incident commanders. There was a failure to document and time record the handover between incident commanders in the early phases up to the point where the command support function was fully established. There was also a lack of clear methodology in the handover. The learning point is that there should be a standardized methodology for handovers between incident commanders. Passing on of information by the crews to the incident commander. There was a breakdown in communication between some areas of the fireground and those incident commanders making critical decisions. This resulted in important information not being passed on to those that needing it. E.g., the wall glowing red on the south side of the building was not passed back immediately to the incident commander on the opposite side of the building. The learning point is that all relevant information should be communicated and logged via command support as soon as reasonably practicable. Next is the accuracy of the information. One of the main problems on the evening was the inaccuracy of the information presented, specifically the layout of the warehouse beyond the first double doors and the location of the fire. The information presented to the incident commanders throughout the early phases of the incident was continually incorrect, even after revisions. The learning point is that incident commanders should question and assure the validity of information given by the local or scene advisor. Operational tactics. Firefighting media. Firefighters at the incident used extended hose reels up to 4 lengths, which was not usual practice. The decision to use extended hose reels at the incident was driven by a number of factors. Previous success at the same location using this method, problems associated with managing large diameter hose, reducing air consumption en route to the fire compartment, and a misunderstanding of the fire size, location, and the conditions of the fire compartment. Warwickshire Fire Rescue Service has reached 4 main conclusions. More emphasis is now contained in training and procedures on the appropriate selection and use of firefighting media. The number of fires attended by Warwickshire Fire Rescue Service is reducing, which has increased the importance of training and the need for it to incorporate a full range of situations that may be encountered by firefighters at incidents. Extensive training in gas cooling techniques can limit the understanding and use of the methods of extinguishing the continuing fires. Pump operators and water sector commanders need to anticipate escalation of the incident and have early arrangements for increasing their water supply. Ventilation would have been extremely difficult, if not impossible, to achieve safely, due to the construction of the building. The first floor storage area should have been provided with more escape routes to ensure the compliance of building regulations. There were plans to install 2 further external fire escapes to the first floor storage area. If these were installed, the options for ventilations would have been increased, making it simpler and safer. Aggressively making holes in the structure is always going to incur risk. For example, from hitting surfaces and encountering fire phenomenon. Previous national guidance on firefighting in sandwich panel buildings identified the need for further work and guidance around methods of ventilation. Thermal imaging cameras are a key control measure for the fire and rescue service. Their ability to assist in both identifying casualties and locating the fire has been extremely beneficial. When operational crews at Atherstone-on-stour used thermal imaging cameras in thick smoke, they showed a screen display with no contrast. The cameras were tested and were working prior to entry into the risk area. This occurred before and after the BA emergency. During work done in the investigation, they identified a possible explanation. When heavy smoke adds higher concentration of carbon, a uniform heat layer can be observed through the thermal imaging camera due to the ability of carbon to absorb and emit heat readily. Warwickshire Fire Rescue Service have contacted their current suppliers of thermal imaging cameras who have considered the issue. They believe that the explanation is plausible, but also identified some other possible causes, which include the impact on the cameras of high humidity. Unfortunately, they are unable to give an explanation unless they can recreate the effect under controlled circumstances. Warwickshire Fire Rescue Service have made crews aware of the potential phenomenon. The lesson to be learnt is that more investigation into recognising the limitations of thermal imaging cameras is required and national guidance should be produced. BA emergency. When the BA emergency was called, there were 2 teams within the lift lobby area. Fire and Rescue Service national guidance states that when a distress signal is heard, the team leaders of BA teams who have sufficient reserves in their air are to direct their teams to investigate the source of the sound, rendering assistance to the wearer in distress to take precedence over the work in hand. But regard must be had to keeping escape routes open and for rescues already being carried out. Once sufficient help is available, any hose lines temporarily abandoned must be reinstated. However, no ADSU was sounding at the time of the BA emergency. Messages being sent back meant that the initial emergency crews did not have an audible target to locate. National guidance under the heading of Lost in Smoke also gives guidance that emergency crews could use and locate a BA team. The branch person can always be found by following the appropriate hose line. However, in this instant, this would have taken emergency crews in the wrong direction and in potential danger. The first firefighter from Red 1 encountered Red 2 in the lift lobby, but the firefighter who had found him had a branch in one hand and was therefore limited in his ability to restrain and guide him. This highlights the difficulties presented by attempting to combine firefighting and gas cooling activities with the need to carry out casualty handling. It also highlights the need for emergency teams to remain in close proximity to each other to improve team communications. After the BA emergency was declared, operational activities were entirely focused on rescue and the wider incident command considerations became secondary. Whilst an enhanced incident command structure was put in place at approximately 2000 hours and water supplies were secured, no direct attack was made on the fire up until the time all crews were withdrawn from the building. This highlights the need to put an adequate command support in place at the earlier stages of the incident and to ensure that it is appropriately resourced as the incident escalates. After the BA emergency was called, incident ground radio traffic increased significantly. This presented difficulties in crew-to-crew and crew-to-BA control communications, which could have been eased by the use of additional channels. Brigades should consider whether their BA refresher addresses training for BA emergencies in realistic scenarios covering unknown casualty locations, unconscious casualties handling, and entrapped procedures. Withdrawal from the building. For some time after the BA emergency was declared, the external view of the building gave little indication of the severity of the conditions inside the fire compartment. Crews inside the lift lobby adjacent to the fire compartment were looking for signs and symptoms of backdraft and flashover, in accordance with their BA training, but the conditions they were encountering were not those that they had been taught to recognise. This was due to the construction methods used within the storage area. Crew selection and availability. Initial resources on the incident ground were limited, which resulted in crews being combined from different stations, which is not considered best practice in Technical Bulletin 197. One inexperienced firefighter was committed into the building as a member of Red 2. which went against service policy at the time. The learning points from this incident are the need to make up early in order to ensure that incidents are adequately resourced for BA, the need to consider the experience of BA wearers when assembling a BA team for a particular task, the importance of realistic training and development for BA wearers giving the falling number of opportunities to gain real-life experience, the importance of reviewing service policy against what is safe and practicable. A final note as we close this debrief. The service will never forget Ian, John, Ashley and Darren, or the life-changing impact of the tragic event upon their families, friends and colleagues. It is the service's sincere hope that this report will go some way at least answering the many outstanding questions that remain in the minds of our firefighters' families and friends. Atherstone-on-stour has had a significant impact on organisational confidence, and much effort has been invested in promoting an understanding of the events of 2nd November 2007 and the steps that have taken to prevent further loss of life. Warwickshire Fire Rescue Service has completely reviewed its approach to training since 2007, particularly breathing apparatus and incident command, with a clear focus to addressing the main learning points contained within the report. The service is committed to promoting operational confidence whilst conscious of the danger of becoming complacent at any level. A complete change in the leadership in the service has taken place since 2007, and they have established clear priorities of firefighter safety, public safety, and doing their best. The new leadership recognises the challenging and constantly changing environment of running a fire and rescue service with decreasing budgets, but is fully committed to maintaining the focus on safe delivery of frontline services. That brings us to the end of this debrief. I hope you found it beneficial, educational, and I hope it acts as a warning to double down on your training, to support your colleagues in their own development, and to ensure that the lessons learned from these debriefs will help us avoid further tragedies in the future. Thank you for coming back to the Firefighters Podcast, and we'll see you again soon.
The Firefighters Podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.